Alright everyone, today we'll be going over the basics of Active Directory using a environment called the Detection Lab. Uh, the This will be the first video in a series of a couple videos that showcase the attack and defense of Active Directory services within the Detection Lab environment. If you guys are not aware of the Detection Lab environment, you guys can go ahead and check the description. We'll go ahead and link you to the video, which will show how to create a full-blown Active Directory environment for you guys to do a lot of learning. If you guys are interested in any content like this, feel free to join our Discord community. We have a ton of like-minded individuals learning IT, hacking, and cybersecurity in general. That will be in the Discord link below in the YouTube description. Feel free to check it out. Okay, without further ado, let's get into the basics of Active Directory. We're going to start with the domain controller here, which acts as the central point of authentication and Active Directory services within a domain. If you guys aren't familiar with Active Directory and domain services in general, this is the bread and butter of all domain services, um, which includes the user access, authentication, which are the logins, the protection and permission within groups, a whole lot of things that exist within Active Directory. If you are trying to get into the start of your IT journey as well as your hacking journey, um, in my opinion, Active Directory is by far the one of the most important skills that you need to learn as a IT professional. So let's get started here. Um, Within the server manager, we'll have a couple options. You'll see that we can configure the local server. In this case, this has already been promoted to a domain controller, but I'll just showcase what this looks like for you. So we're going to go to Add, Roles, and Features. We're going to go Next. And in this case, you'll see that this is a role-based or feature-based installation. Um, from here, we have a list of servers within the environment. We can actually add another server within this network, but just for the intents of this demo, we'll be showcasing the DC server. Okay, and if you want to create a new Active Directory domain services server, you'll select this, the Active Directory domain services component. All other services here, you can create a DHCP server, allow for remote desktop services. If you want to host a web server that you want to test and deploy, or maybe even hack, you can add the web server component as well. From here, most of this is just going to be basic um, IP services that won't really pertain unless you want to perform specific testing in your environment. But in this case, really, what you want is PowerShell, SMB, remote server admin tools, group policy, and then the .NET framework, which allows for applications and administration within the environment. In this case, I don't have anything selected new. This is just to showcase what this looks like, and then you can go ahead and create your own domain controller. Once that's done, you should see your server within the ADDS pool with the self-named server. In this case, we have it called DC for domain controller. But in other cases, we can have a cluster which we'll name by usually the number. So We can call this DCO1, DCO2. That way, if one of these goes down, you have a thing called redundancy, which protects you from some type of outage on one of the servers. Once Active Directory is complete, we'll go ahead and look at the main bread and butter of Active Directory, which is the Active Directory users and computers. Okay, within Active Directory, we're going to go ahead and run as administrator. You will need to set up and know the password. In our environment, it's going to be vagrant/vagrant for the username and password. And we'll see Active Directory opening up. In this case, we'll see a couple built-in groups, users, and OUs. From here, you'll see the Active Directory tree here. If you have multiple trees, you'll see Windows domain.local. If we have Windows domain 2.local, that would be two trees, making it an Active Directory forest. We'll see the group here in OU, which we'll go over that in a little bit. The default OU, the user, and then from here we can actually create a couple self-contained directories. So in this case, what we'll do, we'll make a new group. We'll type new. With that, we'll see some of the basics here that you may expect to see as an admin or even in the help desk within Active Directory. Often you'll see, in this case, we'll go into the properties of a user, and then often you'll be asked to unlock the account if somebody's been locked out for attempting to log in too many times. We also have the option here to directly reset the password of an account, so we can just type in the password followed by unlocking the user's account. Furthermore, if we want to perform a permission change or add a user to a separate group, we can do that here. So we can add, remove, or change the groups within a user's properties, which allows them to do and go to different things. In this case, this is a built-in user, so let's get into that. Within the users group, we can create a subfolder, and then we'll do user, and then we'll type in a new group, and then we'll call this a different group called IT, so information technology. We'll make it a global account. In this case, the scope depends on what you're trying to do. Domain local only to this tree, global to all domain trees, and then universal everywhere. Okay, we're going to hit OK. Alright, now we're going to get into organizational units here, which will contain basically folders and subfolders within Active Directory. So in this case, we have the default folders here, which are called containers. In order to create folders, you actually have to go in and create a change to this container under ADSI. But we won't go into that today. Just know that these folders here are default. In order to change and create them, you're gonna have to do a little bit of manual editing and changes. Going into the OUs here, this is going to be the main components within Active Directory. All Active Directory OUs are going to be affected by something called a GPO. Within GPO, we'll look at the group policy management portion. Make sure to run as admin. And we'll just create a new Active Directory OU, and we'll put one under workstations. So we're gonna go here, type O organizational unit, and then we'll just type one called let's see, this is workstation, so we'll just do security. Okay, create a subfolder here. Looks like access is denied. Properties. See if we can move something here. Fuck. Looks like some default permissions don't let us move the OU from the root of the domain to a lower level. So what we went ahead and did is we went to the workstations OU and then created the sub OU there. So within the security one, we're going to do sensitive users as well. And then you'll see protect container from an accidental deletion. And we'll unclick that in case we want to make future edits. Okay, we can add, remove, or change systems here as long as that is not selected for permission. And we can also have a mix of users and computers. However, typically you want to do either users or all computers. So just make sure you have a either or. A lot of groups policies are affected only by users or computers, so keeping that in mind is going to be important. Within the group policy portion, group policy is a main way of changing and delegating systems by their permissions and access. So we're just going to go into the workstations OU, and you'll see that this has the default domain policy here. So looking at the default policy domain, we can actually see what the policy does by going into the policy and understanding what the settings within this policy are. So we're going to go to security settings, and you will see that it has a password policy, which we can actually go ahead and edit if we choose to. We can also edit, enforce. As you can see here, because it's a default policy, we're probably going to need to either clone this or create a new one with different standards and then applying them to the workstations OU if we decide to. Going back to the actual settings here, we'll see the security settings and lockout policy. You'll see that 0 invalid logins tab, not that good of a policy. Effectively, you can try all day. Minimum password length at least 7 characters. Nowadays, that's not quite a strong password, and we'll see that the Kerberos policy, which is the login mechanism for Active Directory to the domain controller. We'll see that the lifetime of the Kerberos ticket, which is the allowance for login, is 600 minutes. And we'll have a couple network and security options within Active Directory as well. So if we wanted to create a new default policy, we can create a GPO here. And we'll just call it test GPO. Okay, everything within the workstation's GPO, which means the security and sensitive users will be affected by this GPO. Alright, we went ahead and went into the test GPO, double click the GPO, and then we'll see that we can actually create our own administrative template within the GPO settings. So within this, we won't go into this too much. We can change everything between the components, which will be the control panel, network servers, the actual system. We can turn off, turn on Windows Defender, create policies based on account lockout, certain permissions, and we can even create startup and shut down scripts based on whatever we want to deploy and depending on who we want to deploy it to. A couple cool other things is you'll see some user configuration. As you can see, this is separated by computer and user, as we mentioned before. Both of these have different options, so if you want to create some type of script based on whether it's a computer or whether it's based on a user, some of these templates can vary based on whether it's a user or computer. But mostly, you'll see most of the settings that are available will be roughly the same. We can also create uh, new new changes or edit existing policies and settings within the GPO, which will give you a lot of control on your environment based on your choosing. Um, but that's really the main high-end components of Active Directory. There's a whole lot more to this, but this is the first component. We'll be going over the next piece on hacking Active Directory. First off, we'll go into Bloodhound, what Bloodhound is, and what the purpose of this is within a hacking scenario. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a comment and we'll get to you as soon as possible. Thank you.